How can companies use the concept of time slot booking in order to increase the efficiency of deliveries in the supply chain? That is the topic of my conversation today with Daniel Taylor. He is Product Manager Routing with Ortec. Daniel, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Explain, time slot booking is obviously something that is essential to all kinds of deliveries, but when you talk about that, what do you mean in terms of where that's being applied and how that might be a solution here?
Well, there are a couple of places where it can be applied. When I think of it, it's mainly in order fulfillment, delivery order fulfillment. You really want to get the order fulfillment right the first time to minimize your cost. You see that mainly in retail to home delivery. You see it in the services industry, for example, in pest control, healthcare, in aged care, home care specifically. But it goes beyond that. It has more of a broader supply chain application that time slot booking can also be used to book docks. So if a carrier has to deliver or pick up goods, the same system can be used to say, okay, which docks are available so that I can plan that I'm there at that time and I don't have to wait at the gate until I can go to the dock.
Yeah,
so there are more applications than just one.
And as you point out, this is something that's been a practice since forever, since we've had delivery, but it hasn't always been particularly satisfying to the receiver, especially in the case of home deliveries. The time slot might be anywhere between 8 and 4 in a
exactly, it can
day,
be very broad.
Which is not acceptable these days.
No.
To a receiver of goods.
No, what you typically see, the way companies manage that is, which is a bit more difficult through the internet, but through a call center, they take a very broad time slot, 8 to 4, and then only if the customer says, well, can't you be a bit more precise, and say, well, we can come between 8 and 12, and then you come to a bucket. But now with the developments in technology and AI, you of course can very fast determine time slots, taking into account order characteristics, taking into account the plan which is there, and taking into account geography. So actually incorporating the routing in there as well.
So how narrow can you get? How narrow can that window be when you're actually scheduling a particular time for a delivery?
It can be really narrow if you want it to be. It's just that the risk of not being able to fulfill the order increases. Typically you are scheduled an exact time, so 11:52, but the window you give is broader. But I would say, depending on the type of service you deliver, half an hour to an hour you can certainly get to, 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's tighter than most consumers are
yes,
used to receiving in terms of home delivery, for sure.
But it is possible.
Yeah, we are talking about now, I guess we're down to like same day or a couple of hours or 1 hour or something like that. So I guess it's getting to that.
Yes, and it's all made possible through developments in AI, for example, where you can use AI-like techniques to do the profiling. What typical order sizes do I have? And especially what typical time slots do people want. Once you know that, you can really adjust your capacity, your resources, and deploy them correctly so that you can actually fulfill what you're promising.
I could see this as being of great value at the receiving dock. Certainly we've had dock scheduling forever, but we've had problems with dock scheduling where truckers are often required to wait. They show up at the dock and there's not a dock open for them. They have to wait forever. It affects the carrier's willingness to serve the shipper in the long term. So you think this may serve to help solve that particular issue?
Oh yes, for sure. It is, there is no reason why the same techniques cannot be applied. It's actually much simpler. The profiling is much more simple, and it goes a long way in increasing the relationship with your carrier, who often has a feeling they're beholden to whenever you are available. But if you can show a schedule of a whole day with all the time slots which are available, it feels like they have a choice. And that's the same for consumers, of course, as well. It feels like they have a choice. What you have, and you can control yourself still as a supplier, which time slots you actually want to show. I mean, you don't want to be beholden to the consumer or to the carrier in that case. You take the available time slots, you filter out according to your business rules which time slots work best for you, and that's what you then actually show and allow people to choose.
An important aspect of AI or artificial intelligence today is machine learning.
Yes.
Does that imply that this artificial intelligence system would in fact learn and get better at coming up with the right output for scheduling times?
Oh yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, based on experience.
Yes. So there are a couple of ways you can use it. I must admit the way we mainly use it now is for learning. So based on the profiling I was mentioning before, you can adjust your capacity. But the algorithm itself can also improve based on the information it receives. And especially if you start coupling it with revenue management, which is kind of pricing time slots in a certain way to move, and I'm talking about consumers here now again, to move consumers to a certain time slot. That's very powerful stuff.
So much of this has to do with customer service and customer retention and good quality relations between carriers and shippers. This is actually a very interesting issue to be exploring. So Daniel, thank you so much for helping us to understand where it's going. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Love doing it.
I've been speaking with Daniel Taylor of Ortec. Thank you very much for watching.